All right, guys, welcome back, Sagey Bard Podcast. I am Bard.
And I'm Seiji, and we've got an interesting
All
story
right,
for you today.
we're gonna talk. Indeed, we do. We're gonna talk about this nurse out of the UK. Her name is Lucy Letby. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly for the viewers in the UK who are watching this. Let's get right into it. I'm going to show you we have an article here by, I think it's the AP. Let me go ahead and add this to the stream. So Lucy Letby is a killer nurse. Literally the antithesis of what they hired her to do. It's not funny, but it is kind of the irony is just like, wow. So a neonatal or newborn nurse in a British hospital has been found guilty of killing 7 babies. All right, let's go ahead and get through a little bit of this article and show you some pictures of her. A neonatal nurse in a British hospital was found guilty Friday of murdering 7 babies and trying to kill 6 others during a year-long campaign of deception that saw her prey on the vulnerabilities of sick newborns and their anxious parents. Following 22 days of deliberation, the jury at Manchester Crown Court convicted 33-year-old Lucy Letby of killing the babies, including 2 triplet boys, in the neonatal unit at the Countess of Chester Hospital in northwest England between June 2015 and June 2016. She will be sentenced on Monday. Quote, parents were exposed to her morbid curiosity and her fake compassion, said senior prosecutor Pascal Jones. Too many of them returned home to empty baby rooms. Many surviving children live with permanent consequences of her assaults upon their lives. What's interesting about this, what catches my attention first off, is how long it took her to get to. I mean, this happened. It ended in 2016.
Yeah, so basically, she was killing kids back when she was 25, 26 years old.
Yeah,
Um,
like here. I mean, look at this. It's 2023.
but I guess I've read into this a little. So this lady, they have confirmed that she attacked 13 babies, and they believe that she might have attacked dozens more, but they didn't die before she was finally transferred from the neonatal unit. And what happened is pretty early on, doctors flagged that she was the only constant during all of these things that were happening. But the hospital administration stepped in and said, no, you're wrong. She isn't the cause. And they actually forced the doctors to apologize to her. Can you believe that?
Really? Which, that's fascinating. So she's the only constant. They figure out that, well, it has to be her. Who else could be doing it? That's what all these patients have in common. It almost makes me wonder if her life was the story of a Netflix film. I was telling you, there's a Netflix film where
Mhm.
there's a nurse who did the same. Hold on, let me do some research on this and see if this is actually Netflix film, because I think it's actually based on a true story. Killer nurse.
What I think is
Uh,
really interesting, though, while you're looking up something, is that it took this long to actually, to get her sentenced, um, because she
yeah,
she's had this morbid
what's that?
curiosity.
8 years? What is that? 7 years?
8 years. Well, 8 years when she started attacking kids in 2015. So we're actually looking at 8 years and 1 month since the time she started attacking kids to sentencing. Even though she's been under investigation and the doctors at that on that floor or the neonatal unit suspected her since the fall of 2015.
Wow. Let me pull picture here of her. You know, let's talk about this picture for a little bit, and then I want to get into this Netflix because there's a series. It's called The Good Nurse. I don't have any screenshots of this, so forgive me, everyone. Or it might have
When
been
I'm
or a
looking at
caption.
this, I look at and see, a kind of beautiful young woman. I mean, she looks like a
Right.
person that you could trust with your baby.
Yeah, look at how she's posing with the baby clothing. You know, the little onesie, and then you've got her name badge there. It says Lucy Letby. You can actually read that. But what's interesting is why study, go into a profession. Do you think this picture that she's taking here, this is just a theater, you know, for her sinister plans?
I don't believe it's theater. I think that that was really her. I think that there's other stuff going on here.
Let's all right, I want to get into that other stuff. Before we do that, can you get some more details on her life, like when she started nursing? I'm going to get into, while you're doing that, I'm going to talk about the Netflix.
Sure.
Netflix had a watch capturing the killer nurse. There's a capturing the killer nurse 2022. It came out with a story, and I think it's based on it's actually true crime. Hold on. And it's based on a guy, because actually I watched it a couple months ago. It says Capturing the Killer Nurse is a 2022 true crime documentary film about serial killer Charles Cullen and how investigators were able to prove Cullen was killing patients while working in hospitals at a nursing home and as a nurse in the United States. So it's true crime. So this is you know, let's see. Let me go to Wikipedia. Let me see when he was killing. I want to see if there's any influence here, because the film is based on a 2013 book, The Good Nurse by Charles Graeber. And it was released in November 11th, 2022. So the book is 2013. So here she is in 2015, 2 years after the book. She's killing. She's doing exactly what this nurse was doing. You know, and the interesting thing is that just like with any crime, there are copycat crimes. Just like with school shootings, we know for a fact that now a lot of school shootings and, you know, mass shootings are copycat crimes. So I wonder if she was in fact, because this is a very specific type of crime. You're in a hospital and you're killing patients, and this is what this guy was doing. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah. So what do you think about that? The fact that, let me pull up another picture of her here. This one's a little bit less appealing. Let's see. There she is. Maybe she's just joking for the camera, but you know, it does. Maybe she's being silly, but I don't really understand British culture that well. I don't know what this is. Maybe she's just being a psycho here, being herself, or maybe she's just joking around. I don't know, but you can kind of see the crazy in her eyes a little bit here. You know, I mean, just imagine.
Well, I mean, I still think that she just looks like a normal young lady. You know, that's all I see. I mean, we always make fun of British for bad teeth, but other than that, she looks.
Yeah, her teeth aren't bad. I mean, they look straight. I know we make fun of them for having dirty teeth.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what that's about. I don't know how that started, but
maybe she has a frog up because she thinks that she looks like that. But she doesn't look bad to me. She looks like she's totally normal. And what was really sad, when you're in court, I mean, she had a couple pets and she had a lot of fairy tale stuff. She seemed like, I mean, honestly, just a normal young woman. That's what she seemed like. And that's probably also why she got away for this many years, because there's some articles that refer to her as just being a beige, normal nurse, just a normal. There's nothing that would really stand out about her. She graduated, I think, when she was 22. Her mom and dad were super proud of her graduating, and by all means, I mean, it seems like she had a pretty decent life. That they took care of her. They helped her buy her 3-bedroom house where she lived for about £175,000. So it's probably about $225,000 or so. So
Okay.
she lived a mile away from work.
Interesting. She's pretty close. I found an article, but this is a .ph, so I think this is the Philippines. But they're talking about 17 serial killer nurses who murdered their patients, published December 5, 2022. I'm looking for more details on it. So we have a German nurse, 2015, German nurse Niles Hogan, 2 murders and several attempted murders at Delmenhorst Hospital. He would inject his patients with a cardiovascular drug to create a medical emergency, then step in to resuscitate them at the last moment. That's sick. Wow. Talk about playing God. Goodness. This page isn't loading. All right, let me ban and ship on this page.
She was the only child of her parents, which is, I mean, really sad for both of them.
Right.
And
that's another element.
Mom, I was reading another article. Her mom, when they came for her, she was like, "No, the mom said I did it. It wasn't her." You know, it's just so sad that she put her parents through this with her actions.
I mean, just imagine the embarrassment of having a kid that a child that turns out to be a serial killer, and at that, killing babies. How it doesn't get worse than that. I mean, that's pretty bad, especially someone in that position of trust, a nurse.
But what's even more fascinating with this, Bard, is that, like I mentioned earlier, the doctors had complained about her. She was removed from the neonatal unit in July of 2016 after the death of two triplet boys. But then the CEO of the hospital forced the doctors to put her back on that unit again in January of 2017. And to make things worse, her parents didn't believe this situation at all, and they turned around and said, they threatened to sue the medical council for their accusations against their daughter.
Oh, wow. There's going to be more lawsuits. I don't know how litigious the UK system is, but I know if this was in the States, there'd be several lawsuits being filed. I'm going to get a couple more details here. Yeah, I don't understand the British system, that well, but when it comes to legal things, but it does seem like the hospital was trying to.
She started working at that hospital when she was 22
the simple
years
thing
old.
So 3 years into her career as a nurse, I would imagine she started nursing at 22. Maybe, who knows? Maybe she started a little bit earlier. I'm not sure how much school she went to, but let's see. During the lengthy trial, prosecutors said the hospital in 2015 started to experience a significant rise in the number of babies who were dying or suffering sudden deteriorations in their health for no apparent reason. Some suffered serious catastrophic collapses, but survived after help from medical staff. Letby was on duty in all the cases, with prosecutors described her as a constant, malevolent presence in the neonatal unit when the children collapsed or died. They said the nurse harmed the babies in ways that did not leave much of a trace, and that she persuaded her colleagues that the collapses and deaths were normal. So, what does that tell you? That she's this? You know what? This is interesting. Have you seen the Good Nurse? It's on Netflix.
Have not.
Okay, if you guys have seen it, get talk to us in the comments about this, because I'm thinking this is a copycat crime, because the other nurse in the movie, he would do the same thing. He would persuade people it was normal and nothing, he was just doing his job, blah blah blah, but he would just keep killing, and then the hospital would, they couldn't prove it right away, and it took some investigating to figure out what was happening. Not to ruin the plot for you, but go ahead and watch it. But yeah, it looks eerily similar to what this guy was doing, because I'm going to go ahead and call this a copycat crime for now, because the details are too similar. Like, this guy he was injecting stuff into their IV bags. It was very clever. So when no one was looking, he was putting stuff in the IV bags, right? And then it would kill the patients. But he would do it. There's some of the IV bags have a little part where you can put a needle inside and inject stuff in there. And no one would ever know unless they tested the IV bags. And I don't think anyone was testing it. People were freaking out, like, why are these patients crashing? Nothing's wrong with them. Why are they crashing? And you said that she was actually giving them insulin, correct?
She gave some babies, at least one baby, insulin. She gave another one an air bubble, other ones milk. Just injected different things into them that you wouldn't really that are really hard to track. Yeah.
Yeah, the air bubble one, who would find that? The coroner would find that. They wouldn't be able to tell right away what happened, but the air bubble will kill you. That's why they have to make sure that IV line
with the socialized healthcare system. They don't do as I don't think they do quite as much looking into those things, at least initially. As they went further in, I think they started doing more checkups on the babies and trying to figure out what might have happened.
Right. And the thing is the babies are in neonatal ICU. Well, I didn't see that in the article, but did you see? She's just a neonatal nurse, so they're being watched for something, which means they're not perfectly healthy, because if they were perfectly healthy, they would be going home with the parents. But
correct.
So they're probably, let's see.
Well, I found something else.
So let me get into this, because I've actually worked. No. So she was accused of deliberately harming the babies in various ways, including by injecting air into their bloodstreams. So in order to do that, they have to be hooked up to an IV. Oh, actually, she could put a needle in their arm.
Correct.
But then the needle, see, the thing is the needle mark would be apparent.
Yes.
The pathologist would be able to look at that and say, oh, okay, someone put a needle in this baby's arm. But if these babies are receiving care, more than likely they have what's called a catheter that they put. Sometimes they put it in your hand, sometimes they put it in the arm. I think on the babies, they may put it on the leg. I'm not exactly sure. But that catheter stays in place in case they need to do blood draws or in case they need to administer medications. So that catheter's there. So what she could have done is she could have simply blown air into the babies, into that line, into that IV line, and no one would have known the better. They would have been able to deduce during the autopsy that it was a possibly air bubbles put in. So then she was putting stuff in through their nasogastric tube. So nasogastric is when they put there's a feeding tube. So these babies are being fed through what they call them NG tubes here in the States. So they have a tube that they insert in into the nostril, one of the nostril, their nares. It's called a nare, Nare, one of the nares, and it goes down into the stomach, goes down all the way through the esophagus into the stomach, and this is how the babies receive their nutrition. And so she was also, and then the nasogastric tube is hooked up to a line which is above the patient's heads for gravity purposes, so that it provides constant pressure into feeding them. So she was injecting stuff into those bottles as well. That's
Yeah,
pretty.
and well, what it says
Pretty clever,
is
pretty
just
disgusting.
when you're thinking about it, it says Letby went to the gym, did salsa classes most weeks, and had quite an active social life, she told jurors. But her life appeared to revolve around her work. So she counted some of the nurses as her best friends, and it was her, quote, little family. And you have amazing detailed notes from her, and some of those notes basically implicate her in terms of what eventually came out.
Yeah. The articles say that there's no reason why, there's no motive. I know you had a
No motive
theory
at
on
all.
this. What do you think this is? What do you think could be doing this?
When you look at
What do you
all
think
the
could be doing
pictures,
this?
so you look at the pictures of her, she looks happy. She looks, I mean, relatively attractive. It seems like she had a vibrant social life. She had good parents. It didn't seem like she had any real challenges. I mean, her parents even bought her a home when she was 25, 26 years old, a 3-bedroom, 180,000 pound home. That's a pretty significant gift. So that means they were probably at least
Her parents
middle
bought that for her?
class.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, so she seemed
Right.
like
It's
she
just,
had everything lined up. From what I'm
it
thinking,
seems so
and then
strange.
yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, it just seems strange. Like, why would you want to do this?
Well, and here's the
Babies.
thing. Maybe she didn't want to do it. Maybe she didn't want to do it. Maybe, like, according to her journal, she says different things. Like, for example, in her journal, she says, um, she admits to it. She says, I don't deserve to live. I killed them on purpose because I'm not good enough to care for them. I'm a horrible, evil person. I'm evil. I did this. And she basically admits to a lot of the stuff that she did in her own diaries. She described herself as evil
In her diaries.
in her
Interesting.
diaries. I believe that she is either schizophrenic or demon possessed, or that's what I believe. Because
It's interesting
oh,
when
go ahead.
studying abnormal psychology, time like before real science when it comes to psychiatry, people actually believe that people were. I mean, and the truth is, some people are demon possessed because you
Mhm.
have people performing exorcisms till this day. But what's interesting is schizophrenia. I don't know. I mean, I've read about schizophrenia. I don't know all the aspects of it, but yeah, it's true. A voice, like, see, in her statement, she doesn't mention a voice telling her. I want to look up schizophrenia real quick.
Well, I think
Uh,
that, Bart, when you're looking at this, I mean, I think that there's a lot of times that you have people who are like, I mean, who are like this, that, and I think that schizophrenia a lot of times is misdiagnosed as, well, whatever the problem is, misdiagnosed as schizophrenia when they're actually demon possessed. That's, I mean, and I know that that might not be a popular opinion with some of our listeners, but I think that there are a lot more cases of demon possession than we would otherwise like to
People are
believe.
letting on.
Yeah, I remember
That's
taking
true.
a school psych class, and one of the professors, he shared with he shared with us how when he was in training, he went into a psych hospital, and there was this lady who they asked her about something. They were trying to get some information from her, and she was like in a panic. She said, I can't tell you anything. I'm scared for my life. And they said, well, why are you scared? And they said, well, she was describing an entity. She said, this thing is right next to me and it's sitting next to me. And they couldn't see anything. But when they actually looked on the bed or the couch where she was sitting, there was an imprint there, and it couldn't be described by anything other than something that was exerting force on the couch or the bed that you couldn't see.
Right. That's definitely some sort of demonic activity. I let me read into the schizophrenia, then I'm going to tell you guys an interesting story, some stuff I heard when I took a psych senior capstone class. I wasn't a psych major, I was actually a religious studies major, but I took it because there is a religious component to some of this, as you are mentioning with schizophrenia, and the fact that it was misdiagnosed or it was thought to be demon possession. This is from the mayoclinic.org. Schizophrenia is a serious mental disorder in which people interpret reality abnormally. Schizophrenia may result in some combination of hallucinations, delusions, and extremely distorted thinking and behavior that impairs daily functioning and can be disabling. People with schizophrenia require lifelong treatment. Early treatment may help get symptoms under control before serious complications develop and may help improve the long-term outlook. Here's the thing with schizophrenia and a lot of these disorders. People have to exhibit them in order for them to be diagnosed, right? Someone has to hear, like, for instance, it's not going to be the doctor who comes across some sort of strange behavior first, right? It's most likely going to be someone she works with, a family member, someone she's in contact with, who needs to demonstrate this and then gently try to get her care. You see what I'm saying? It's really interesting how psych cases work. It's a lot of referrals. Sometimes they get picked up by the police or by the ambulance and brought into the hospital for some sort of acute psychiatric disorder. They'll get picked up, especially if they have like an episode in public. That's the quickest way to get picked up and put in the hospital. But other than that, how would you know what it is? Being a just a bystander. Can you see me? Looks like my video's out.
Yeah, it stopped. But the thing is, there probably are times where, and since this seems episodic, where she was busy killing people for about a year, and then it seems like she stopped. It's almost like when you think about Jack the Ripper, where there were a whole bunch of murders and then they stopped, and we don't know why. Maybe the person died, maybe the person was able to reconnect with reality. You
That's
just
true.
don't know. But from everything that we see from the pictures, she does seem like just a totally normal, plain individual. And there's no motivation for her to be. There's no motivation to do this. There's no motive. Babies literally have not hurt anyone. So.
Right. Which makes me believe you are possibly correct, and maybe there was something going on, but we wouldn't know that, and a person who's schizophrenic is unable, like other patients could come in and say, oh, I've been having chest pain.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know, I'm not an expert in psychiatry, or I've done a few psych classes, but I don't know if these people are able to definitely not self-diagnose, but self-report. I don't know how it works, how people get figured out. Here's some symptoms in teenagers: withdrawal from friends and family, a drop in performance at school, trouble sleeping, irritability or depressed mood. Went to see a doctor. See, here's the thing. Here's what I'm talking about. People with schizophrenia often lack awareness that their difficulties stem from a mental disorder that requires medical attention. So it often falls to family or friends to get them help. You see what I'm saying?
And it seems with this woman that she lived by herself with her cats and her stuffed animals. I mean, it does not seem like she was very close to a lot of people who might have been able to to say,
Help.
hey, you know what, this is what your problem. This might be a problem.
Right.
We should look for help together.
I agree. I think that's most likely what it was. Now, let me tell you guys a quick story before we go about demon possession. Yeah, it's a real thing, guys. It is definitely real. There's some incredible stories that you can watch online with some priests talking about things that there's some really famous cases where nurses have walked in rooms and you can see their interviews, and said patient is crawling up the wall backwards, you know,
I'd be
or
leaving.
being, you know, I would quit that day. Okay, I'm out of here. You guys enjoy your career. This is my 2-second notice.
Yeah.
But there's some incredible stories. I know, demon possession is real. This stuff is real. It's not to be played with. It's not to be toyed with. It is real. There are real entities out there who are doing malevolent things, and oftentimes, some of these things happen, and it may be misdiagnosed as schizophrenia, but it, like you're saying, Seiji, it very well could be, in fact, some sort of demon possession. All right. We're at 31 minutes. You got any final comments on this? I think I'm done. Ready to end if you're ready.
No, I don't. I just think this is a really perplexing. It's a perplexing case, and ultimately, who knows what this lady was thinking? But she definitely does not seem like a killer, and I just feel so sad for all of the families that she negatively impacted. They were interviewing another lady whose daughter survived, and it's as soon as they moved their daughter from that hospital to another one, their daughter recovered pretty quickly. And
Wow.
that lady had 3 other kids, but there's so many families that might have been their only child, and Lucy was her parents' only child. I don't know what's worse, to lose your child in the hospital as an infant because someone murdered your baby, or to have your child grow up, think that they're successful, they graduated, and then have your dreams crushed when you're a 60, 66-year-old.
Yeah.
And find out that your daughter was responsible for murdering 7 babies. It's just sick.
It really is sick. I don't think we'll ever know. I think here's what I think. I think when she's in prison, sometimes, people like to study people like this. I'm sure someone will study her. Some psychiatrist will probably study her. I think if they interview her enough and talk to her enough, they'll probably be able to get a diagnosis. They'll probably be able to figure out that she is in fact schizophrenic. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And if they can't prove that, I think the other thing is that, she could just be a cold-blooded killer, and
Every
or
once
she
in a while, you have that sociopath gene.
Right, exactly. She could just be a cold-blooded killer, or like you said, we can't test for evil spirits. It could have just been something in her influencing her that we have no idea, and she gave into that spirit or that presence, whatever it was. But we'll probably never find out if in fact that is the case. All right, guys. All right, Seiji, you ready to wrap up? We done? We good?
Totally. Yep.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining us here in this Seiji Bard presentation here on this killer nurse, Lucy Letby. Definitely subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be notified of new videos.
And
And
if you have anything to say, please comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, definitely comment in the comments below, and we do answer comments. So, and definitely subscribe. We need our subscribers. We have a goal of 1,000. So that's our goal. We think it's a fair goal. Help us get to our goal, 1,000 subs. Thank you so much for your time. Seiji Bard Podcast. and we will see you in the next one.